Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Tonight, we have a very special guest coming on. Nathaniel Elwell is a paranormal researcher with over 17 years' experience in the paranormal field. He's the founder of the Southeastern Ghost Research Association in Alabama, as well as the Newport Paranormal Society in New Hampshire. Nathan utilizes his investigative skills to dissect and break down paranormal content on his TikTok channel, and he likes to offer an alternate explanation as to what's happening in the videos. In his spare time, he also likes testing the wide variety of paranormal applications that are out there, and he puts his findings on the YouTube channel. He's also recently written a book, which he is hoping to have out later this year, and that is covering all of his adventures while testing out these different applications. So, without any more waiting, we'll bring Nathan in right now, and let's get this show going. Hey Nathaniel, how are you? And welcome to the show. I can see straight away we are recording a bit lower, so I'm going to see if I can find the
Gary doing Gary things.
Yeah, Gary doing
Gary things. But you know, we're not gonna skip the fact that you went in with to say Nate, but then you wanted it to be Nathan.
I was waiting for the bit of the head bob and the Indian accent to come out, but
No, I nearly didn't.
Look, it don't matter to me. Nate, Nathan, Nathaniel, it don't matter to me.
as long as it's not late for dinner.
That's right. That's
Yeah, because I love to eat.
Oh,
okay, I'm just going to put it out there before we get started that there's a bit of lag, so you won't see it in the finished video, but you might see it a little bit interrupted on our part, but we're going to go with it. So,
Let's do it.
Nate,
Let's
do
do
you
it.
want to tell us how you originally got into the paranormal and what has taken you to where you are right now?
So, my first experience in the paranormal, I've always had an interest. My first book that I remember checking out from a library was a book called 13 Alabama Ghosts in Jeffrey by Catherine Tucker Windham. And also in 9th grade, I did a book report on Area 51. I was able to access certain files, and I found I still have a copy of it here somewhere, a documented printout of Bill Clinton pardoning Area 51, stating the fact that anyone who was working there that came in contact with hazardous chemicals, that the government would not be held liable for their injuries. So I did that, and you know, I have experienced a lot in my time, and most of my experiences came between the ages of 18 to 22, and it was a very weird chain of events. So I am a paranormal investigator, yes. I don't call myself a paranormal investigator. I call myself a paranormal researcher.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to explain what happened to me in layman's terms, or in common terms. Because my family has ties to the Salem witch trials. We have a family member named Esther Elwell, who was arrested during the Salem witch trials and found guilty of witchcraft. I have a carbon copy of her arrest record. So I know for a fact this happened. But the simple fact of the matter is, knowing my background, I had a friend who I felt did me wrong, so I did the right thing and made a voodoo doll. Not the right thing. Because there is such a thing in the occult world known as the rule of return, where anything that you do upon someone in a negative aspect comes back to you tenfold.
ooh.
That's what I feel like started the whole thing for me. Because I was maybe 17 going on 18 when I created this doll. And I used to have a shelf in my room that was a DVD shelf. It held my DVD collection at that time. And now it couldn't hold it because I have a collection of probably 4,000 DVDs. And I made this doll. The very next day, my dog Stormy, who was a pit bull, age of 16, maybe 15, very old age for a pit bull. She had an accident on my bed. She could no longer control her faculties at that age. I decided, you know what? I can't have that. So when she came to go into my room to sleep that night, I said, Stormy, you can't come in here. Honey, you had an accident on my bed. You need to go and sleep in the living room on the couch. I remember shutting the door, and I opened the door and looked down the hallway. And what I saw was the dog looking back at me, hoping I would change my mind, is how I took it. Well, that very night, she crawled up underneath the coffee table in the dining room and passed.
Oh no.
So
Sorry.
I felt like crap for that. But it was the next day that everything started. Because I went to bed that night and I started feeling a tugging on the bottom of my blanket near my feet, which is typically where Stormy would have slept. And I was feeling this tugging, and I don't think at that point in time it was so fresh in my mind, I don't think it clicked to me that she wasn't there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And so, after 4 or 5 times of her tugging on my blanket, I kicked my foot back. And when I kicked my foot back to get her to stop, I hit something solid. And then it instantly popped in my head. Wait a minute. There's no animal in this room. She died yesterday. What did I just kick? And I heard this voice that did not sound human in any way, shape, or form say my name.
Wow.
Oof. Yeah.
And mind you, I am OCD about having doors closed. I've got my bedroom door closed right now. I don't like open doors. I see open doors as open doorways.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And after about what seemed to be an hour, but let's be honest, in that frame of terror, considering I had never experienced anything like that before, it was more than likely like 10 or 15 seconds, to be honest. I rolled over, I grabbed a flashlight, and I turned it on. So my closet door had French doors. So you had the 2 handles in the middle, you would pull it out and it would open from the middle, right?
Yep.
I know for a fact that door was latched before I went to bed. When I rolled over and turned on the flashlight, the doors were open.
Oh, this sounds very much like a Fernando story, doesn't
Yeah, I
it?
was about to say that. Fernando.
But whatever was bothering me in that room, it carried on for years. At some point, I'm going to say it was probably a year after the closet door opening, I started noticing scratch marks on the sideboard of my bed. So my sideboard, it didn't stick up above my bed, so I know when I kicked my foot back and hit something solid, it wasn't the sideboard. But there were scratches that were on my sideboard of the bed frame that were not there when Stormy was alive, so I don't know where these scratch marks came from. And then I started hearing the tapping on my window every day, 3 a.m. You could set your fucking watch to it.
Yeah.
3 a.m., 3 taps, very loud, on my window. And
We all
I
know
had
what this
so
means.
many... Do what?
I said we all know what these numbers mean.
I was actually going to ask. I was going to ask if the scratches were there in 3s or 4s.
3s. Mocking of the Trinity. We all know what it means. And so, at this point in time, though, I didn't know anything about the mocking of the Trinity. I was just experiencing something that I couldn't explain. And when I told my friends and my family about it, they were like, oh, well, you're imagining it. So what did I do? I invited my friends over to stay the night in my room. And they were all woken up at 3 a.m. by 3 solid taps on my window. And when we opened the blind, there was no one there. And then the nightmares started. I started having nightmares about myself dying in violent ways. It's a typical, what I guess some would claim as a demonic style infestation.
Yeah.
But I don't see it as a demonic infestation because I don't believe in demons, to be honest. I don't. I think that what people think are demons are most likely just nasty human entities that left behind a nasty residue, is what I think they are. But I can tell you that I started having nightmares of me dying in various ways, and then oddly it stopped, but it picked back up about a year later. I got married to my ex-wife, and we moved to a small town in Clayhatchee, Alabama. So Clayhatchee is a town so small that if you were driving your car at 65 miles an hour and you blinked, you probably didn't even realize you went through a town. But they do have a Dollar General. Because God forbid what small town doesn't, right?
For sure.
But at that point in time, I was working what was called the closing shift at McDonald's. I was a manager. I was actually a supervisor at McDonald's. So I would go into work at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. and get off at about, anywhere between 1:30 to 3:30 a.m., depending on how much work had to be done after the shift. And I would come home, and my ex-wife used to leave the light on for me, and we had this bay window that was at the front of our trailer. And I would see shadows walking through the lights when I came home. And I would think, why is she awake at this night? Because I know that Danny, my daughter, who was an infant at that point in time, was going to be awake in like an hour. I go inside, no one's awake. So what did I see? About 4 months after I started seeing these shadows, I had a week of vacation. I took my week's vacation. I lay down in bed one night and I went to go to sleep. And when I tell you this is a small town, here's what I mean. Our trailer that we lived in, there was not a street light within probably a half a mile of this place. So if you turned off the lights and you didn't have a night light and you stuck your hand half an inch in front of your face, you're not going to see it. And I woke up with a bout of sleep paralysis. And I don't know if anyone out there has ever dealt with sleep paralysis that is watching the show, but let me tell you, it is the scariest thing in the world you will ever experience. You can't move. It sucks. And I felt this pressure on my chest.
Yeah.
So what seemed like an hour was probably like 15, 20 seconds. But I was able to shake it off. And when I sat up in my bed, in this pitch black darkness, I saw a figure that was blacker than black that went backwards into the hallway. And when it went backwards into the hallway, when it hit about halfway, the light bulb in the hallway started glowing. And when it got so bright, and I'm like, what is going on? And then the light bulb shattered.
Wow. What you were just saying there, if anybody goes back and watches any of our shows where we talk about the Albany investigation, especially the first one that we went to, I stayed in the isolation hospital of a quarantine station, and I was in there by myself because everybody else chickened out and they went over to the nurses' quarters. And it was about between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. It was around 4 o'clock, I think. I woke up and I did the exact same thing. You can watch it, and it's word for word what you just said. As black as it was, there was something in the corner blacker than black, and that's when I got up. I went to the door, and something grabbed me from behind, pulled me backwards down the ground. And I'm a big bloke. I got up again, opened that door. A glass was thrown at me, and a broom was thrown at me. And this wasn't into a kitchen or anything like that. This was into the outside, and I was barefoot, and the glass smashed on the floor. So it just resonated with me when you described that as you saw something blacker than black, because I know exactly what you're talking about when you say that.
Yeah, because so many people do not believe me when I tell them that story. Unless you have experienced it personally, you are never going to believe that story, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, last year, when I went to a particular house, we're not going to name any names, but I went under the Estes to do the Estes method. And maybe 5-10 minutes in, I started saying, like, I'm seeing movement. But, I have my eyes closed with the blinds on. So how is it that I'm seeing something moving? It's blacker than black. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with that one.
So for that, it would be I'm not going to say very easy, but I have a plausible explanation for that. If you're seeing something when you're blindfolded during the Estes method, right? There is a very good plausibility that you harness some type of psychic ability that you don't even know that you have. Yep. You are seeing the environment in its real time, and you're picking up on the environment, which is visually making it appear in your head.
Well, something else that while I was under, and I said it, all of this is recorded. I'm about to re-edit, do everything so I could put out videos of it. But I also saw flashes going on, almost how can I explain? I guess like a bang, like a gunshot.
A muzzle flash.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened a couple of times that day too, and I was like, it's wild. It's wild. It's fun. Yeah.
It is wild. It is fun. And you know what? Here's the thing: is the paranormal. We will never fully understand it.
No, that's the whole thing about it.
This will always be laid in a form of pseudoscience. It's a science that cannot be explained because you cannot take it and you cannot put it into a scientifically controlled environment and run a hypothesis on it to achieve repeated results. So this will always be a pseudoscience.
Yeah.
But something's happening. We may not know what it is, but something is there. Are we realistically catching voices on voice recorders? You know what? We don't know. Maybe there is some kind of alternate universe that is overlaying to ours, like as far as the time slip theory, right?
Well,
Where
you just piqued our
they
interest.
have the ability to manipulate the magnetic devices within a voice recorder to overlay their voice so we can hear them. We don't really know if what we're talking to are actually ghosts or people on another timeline.
No, you started
see, Gary. This is
Here
where
we go.
this is where the whole lead-based paint on the walls comes in.
No, that's residual haunting.
Yeah, it's still...
I'm going back to Albany again. That same session where that happened to me that I was just explaining to you, we did a board session there because we had somebody who could govern a board properly, and they were from 19, 13, something like that, was coming through, and they were seeing us as the spirits. And throughout my years of research, I'm getting into this many worlds theory, and you know how they talk about the Big Bang and everything's expanding and contracting. If you think of every world as a bubble, when two bubbles come together, at that point, you can glimpse what's happening through as if you're looking through a curtain into another room. And I think not every case, but in a lot of cases, what's happening is you're glimpsing another reality and they're glimpsing our reality. And this is where some cases of hauntings, not all, come from. And man, we're actually thinking aligned in a lot of things. So I'm really interested to hear where you're going next.
No, because I agree with you 100%. I firmly believe in the time slip theory. I believe that you have to be in the perfect situation, in the perfect circumstance. But if a spirit is not interacting with you, it's not because it doesn't know you're there. Maybe it's afraid to interact with you because it's seeing you as well on a different time frame, and it doesn't know how to understand it.
Yes. 100%.
So I jive with you on that 100%.
I've long said that it's kind of it's annoying when you're investigating.
Frustrations.
Yeah, and then you're trying to catch evidence, trying to get trying to experience something on camera and stuff like this. But it always seems, even as far as like reacting to these paranormal call on tape video, it always seems like the ghost is like on a corner, like it's never really like there. It's always like yeah. So it makes you think, like, do you think they think that our camera is like a weapon or like a gun or something? Well, I mean, because there's a lot of people walking around like...
No, so there is nothing saying that, and I'm going to go into a little bit of a hypothetical theory here, okay? So there is nothing saying that, like Bigfoot, a majority of the footage that you see, in Australia you guys have the Yowie.
Yes, correct.
In theory, there is nothing saying that ghosts cannot put off a what they would call infrasound frequency.
Yes,
to where it would not mess with your electronic devices. There's a theory out there that the Bigfoot, the Yowie, the Yeti, the orang pendek in Asia, whatever continent you're going on, that they can put out an infrasound frequency that can make your camera malfunction. So what is to not say that ghosts cannot do that as well? Are they interdimensional beings? No. Are they plausibly time slips? That's what I would go with. But you have to think about the theory like this. If a time slip is happening congruent to you filming, then why would you not experience film malfunctions? because you are experiencing some kind of electromagnetic activity that you cannot understand, allowing the universes to overlap. We don't know how that's going to affect our equipment.
100%. I agree with that.
So, if the theory of the time slip does indeed add up, then there is no reason that time slip would not cause your equipment to malfunction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's really interesting.
I'm sorry, I got off on a little tangent
No,
there.
no,
but
We love that. We love that. But what I'm going to do now is going to jump into your research on different paranormal apps that are out there, because let's face it, there's a lot of people coming into the ghost hunting, paranormal investigation, paranormal research field at the moment, and rather than going out and buying the RAM pods, going out and buying the proper EMF meters, they're using apps off phones. Now, I know you've been doing a lot of research as to what you find with these, so do you want to go into that with a little bit and find out what you think are good ones and what you think you should avoid?
Yeah, there are some good ones out there. There are some ones you should avoid. Any Spirit Box app, for the record, avoid. They suck. But for me, when it comes down to it, I really like the Echo Vox. So the Echo Vox is kind of expensive. It's $20 American. But the results that I've gotten from it thus far, which for the record, this is kind of like a precursor because this is my first release for my episode of season 2 of the Paranormal App Test on my YouTube channel. So this is not even known yet. I like the responses that I've gotten, and I've been able to pretty much link them historically. So I like the responses. The other app that I would trust is the Sono X10 Spirit Box. I think it's a great app. It works very well. It's fluid. You don't have any kind of lag to it. It works very well. The Ghost Hunter M2 app, which is produced by Michael Weber, this thing comes with so many tools in it that at $9.99, why would you not buy it? The whole thing is people have this distrust about paranormal applications because they're like, well, why would I trust an app on my smartphone? It could be pulling from data. You know what? It could. But there is a portion when you download the app and first open it that it tells you, are you willing to allow this to track your data? Just say no. And when you use the app, put it on airplane mode. That also eliminates any kind of outside contamination. So when I think that these apps get a lot of hate, when I've got a motion sensor music box, I've got an SB7, I've got a laser grid, I have got, you name the paranormal tools that I've got, right? My phone contains more sensors within it than any other tool out there. Because you have to have a touchscreen sensor. You have to have a motion sensor. You have to have a barometer because that's how it tracks your steps and how many steps that you've taken up flights of stairs and such. So it's got a barometer. It has got, you name it, it's got it. So why the mistrust? Why do people hate these apps so much? Why? Because people will fake anything to make $1.
Oh yeah.
And that is why you have to pick and choose your apps and pick and choose them wisely.
Yes.
That's for sure. I mean, right now, what do you think of the Ghost Tube applications?
I hate Ghost Tube.
Me too.
Everybody.
I like using it. It is a bit of fun, but I would never use anything from it as evidence of the actual paranormal.
So here's the thing. I agree with you on that. It is fun to use, but here, any application that you use, and in theory, this can be applied to any investigative tool that we realistically use, right? You cannot take it as 100% evidence. You have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to take it for your experience and what you experienced. You cannot say, oh, this is legitimate evidence of the paranormal because the fucking Ghost Tube said so. Sorry for my language. But you can't do that. It's like any SLS. Any SLS app sucks.
Yes.
I'll tell you.
Now, when you go into, like, say you want to go into where you have the iPhone, I think it's like 13 Pro and above, they actually started introducing LiDAR. So maybe you could implement that because LiDAR is a very useful tool. But I don't trust the SLS cameras to begin with because they map everything that is not paranormal. And I hate it when I see paranormal shows use it. Because you can map a doorway, and if the doorway just resembles a perfect resemblance of a shadow, it's gonna map it. And I fucking hate that. It drives me crazy.
I was in Kings Park Psychiatric Center, and I was going, I started using the Ghost Tube SLS just to try it. And it started, it right away started mapping out all the graffiti on the wall.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you take out the apps, right? Forget about the apps and go to the actual proper SLS units. At one point, we had 2 of them within the group, and literally 100%. Actually, no, I'll make it 99% because there was one time when I couldn't identify it, but every single capture I was able to debunk. And people that really do put a lot of time into the SLS go, no, it's not this. I said, look, you can see it right there.
Yeah.
There's a chair, there's this, there's a that. Yeah, and I've got really, I'm yet to be convinced that there's anything even remotely credible about any kind of SLS camera.
Well,
so in my possession, I have an Xbox Connect in my closet. I'm building my own SLS cam. And I am going to go through and do a documentary video of how the SLS does not work.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably why I'm going to be blacklisted from the paranormal, to be honest.
Most likely.
Look, no, I started to build one myself, and then it dawned on me, like, why? It's not accurate. No, I've got pieces sitting in a cupboard.
It's not. It's not accurate. Why am I going to do it? Because people need to know the truth.
Yeah.
And everybody on television uses it. Everybody on television has an SLS.
As much as I love what I do, I love my followers on TikTok. I love all these events that I get invited to. I love doing podcasts. I don't care if I get blacklisted because I don't do this to make money. Never have.
We're in the same boat.
Quite often, if you get blacklisted, it's because you've hit on something that's very sensitive and very possibly the real deal, you know what I mean? And people don't like that, so they just put you to the side because they don't want to hear the truth. And now, getting onto apps and different types of machinery, Jeremy...
he keeps in contact. That.
Huh?
You're lucky.
Yeah,
Jeremy keeps in contact with one of our previous guests who actually develops a lot of paranormal gear.
I would love to get Nathaniel in contact with this guy.
Yeah.
So he's an Australian guy on the East Coast. We actually had him on our show a while back now.
Yeah.
And he develops, creates, and programs his own tools. So
I would love that.
Yeah. So, he makes his spirit boxes and everything else to go with it. And he currently has one thing in work that I've had a sneak peek at that really nobody else has. And what he is doing with that is absolutely phenomenal. I'm not going to go into it too much because I don't know how far he's gone.
No spoilers.
But let's just say nobody's done it yet, and let's hope to God that he puts some sort of protection on that thing so nobody steals it and copyright that.
I'm sure
because it's going to be a game changer.
That would just be smart.
He's trying to get a patent.
Because right now, I'm in the process of developing a software program that breaks down EVP into the human vocal range.
Yeah, he's pretty close on that.
Oh, so we're kind of hitting on the same aspect.
Yeah, man. And the way that he has himself hooked up with locations, he has an amazing place. He does tours there as well. So any new technology that he makes, he tests out in the field. He doesn't just sit in his house and use it. He goes and puts it forth in the field and goes, this needs tweaking.
Put me in contact with this man. I would love to talk.
He makes just about everything that he can. Everything's 3D printed. He codes it all. He does everything. So if there's something that he doesn't like, he doesn't have a corporation saying, no, this is what you need to do. He's like, no, this is what I'm doing.
It's all him. And what Jeremy hasn't told you yet is that this guy, because he 3D prints his own cases for the devices and things like that, he will custom make them for you to the point where you can have your own, group
brand
name
or logo
or your brand actually printed into it. So
we've got Nate excited.
Music box.
That is cool.
That is cool.
I love my motion sensor music box, but I don't trust it. I think
He makes those as well.
It's a great entertainment tool, but let's be honest. What if passing in front of that to make it go off? We really don't know.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to sit here and say, and I see that I'm frozen in the corner there. So
No, we can hear you fine.
We can hear you.
We really don't know what causes that to go off. But can I tell you guys that I know a woman that makes a device when it comes to a REM pod that is bar none the REM pod to go for.
Okay, well we got.
And there's a reason. There's a reason for it and a reason behind it. Why am I so frozen?
It may just be on our end.
Hopefully, when this all goes to air, people won't see that because it's uploading all of your live videos, so there shouldn't be any.
Well, when I'm unfrozen, I'll show you guys this device because I want to do a demonstration to show you why this is a superior device as far as any other REM pod you could ever buy.
I am curious now because I have been looking at purchasing a REM pod, but it's the original REM pod that you see on all of the TV shows with the red top and everything. If you want to buy it in Australia now, they're upwards of $700 or $800, and that's ridiculous for something with a theremin circuit in which you can buy for $30. Now,
it is because literally a REM pod is nothing more than a junior theremin kit. That's all it is.
Yeah.
In a fancy box.
Yeah, we tested one of those cheap ones that you can buy off eBay that were $30, and it still did the same job. You know, maybe not have as many lights on it, but it still sounded off when anything got close to it. So yeah, I'm not going to spend $800.
Here's the amazing thing about the device that I really want to show you guys, and I hope my audio picks back up or my video.
Yep.
Because this device picks up on electrostatic.
Do you have a way to turn off and turn back on your camera?
There is down the bottom. There's a little button for camera.
Yeah, I've tried that and it's not working.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
So Nathaniel, sorry, just quickly going back to this lovely gentleman that makes these devices. He's actually currently got 5 up in his shop. So he's got his PM2, PM3, a Horus 2, an optic, and a phantom lamp.
Yep.
Just so with his, like, say, his Horus, which is one of his good sellers, it embodies the essence of the next community called radio energy score, the innovative design samples, geomagnetic data, and demodulates natural magnetic energy, offering a unique and interactive spectral communication. So this guy goes extremely deep into what he's doing.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
And his prices are fair, you could say, to the time and effort that he puts in. So you're looking average of like $200 US, anywhere from $100 US to $200 US for his devices.
And it's not horrible.
No, it's not.
And I'm sorry my camera's frozen, guys.
It is what it is.
I'm trying to fix it.
Look, in all honesty, it's still up. You're still uploading all of the videos, so on the finished product, you won't be frozen. So when you're holding something up, if you just let us know, and we'll all go, ooh.
So can I show you the device that I wanted to show you?
Yes,
sure.
So this is the Crystal Pod. This is designed by a woman named Lauren Hellickson. I specifically had this design with black tourmaline on the top because black tourmaline is a protective stone in Wicca.
Yeah.
She makes every single box custom made. Here's the thing. Detachable antenna. USB rechargeable. So you do not need batteries. Those are 2 plus points.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Very much so.
If you extend out the antenna, and I'm going to try and put this because I'm frozen, so I can't tell where I'm at, but I think I'm good here. If I turn this on, if I took this Sharpie and I put it into proximity of a REM pod, it's going to go off, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Shit.
I am touching the antenna.
And
nothing.
It's going off.
Nothing. Now, if I put that down,
Oh wow.
There you go. It's interesting. I wonder what kind of setup she's got in relation to sensors and
That's
things.
smart.
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, but this is probably my most trusted device out of any paranormal equipment that I own.
See, the only problem with that is, like, how does it work? Let's pull it apart.
She has no issues with. Here's the thing. You don't have to pull it apart. If you asked her, she would have no issues with telling you how it works.
Oh wow.
And that's somebody who's
I
got
like-
nothing to hide, and she's just legitimately doing it for the science of it. And that is the kind of person you want to work with.
That's the same as Daniel. That's the same as Daniel DeLong. He is very open about how he makes his things.
She basically says that her crystal pods, they don't work off of proximity, they work off of electrostatic.
Yes.
And let me tell you,
and that, I mean, yeah, that's actually picking up on electricals, not just physical objects.
yeah, because you guys saw it firsthand. I could put a Sharpie up to it, it doesn't pick anything up. But if I put my hand up to it, it instantly goes off.
Yeah.
Mm.
No.
No,
That's crazy.
You're going to have to, after the show, send me this lady's details so I can get in contact with her, because I am after a decent REM pod.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will contact her and let her know that you're in the market. Shoot me a Facebook message.
Yep.
And I'll see if I can get you a discount.
Sounds good to me.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Not expecting that at all. So just going back to your apps that you're saying.
She loves my son. She loves my son. Like when we met at the Salem Paracon where I bought the specific device, my son comes over and he starts playing around with the devices, and she's like, "Oh, well, hey, little guy, how are you?" And he said, "I'm good." And she said, "Well, do you know what you're messing with there?" And he said, "Yeah, an electromagnetic field device." And she said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, whenever my hand comes close enough, it's going to go up." Like, he literally sat there and told her word for word how a junior Thurman kit would work in a REM pod. At 7,
That's great. That's
That's
great.
awesome.
he's a prodigy. Like, he did his first ghost hunt last year. Me and Adam Berry did an event together. And
Okay.
I'm sure, I hope you guys have heard of Adam Berry.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing guy. And we did an event together here at the Newport Opera House. And my son was like, "I want to go and do the ghost hunt." I'm like, "Buddy, you don't want to do the ghost hunt." He's like, "I do want to do the ghost hunt." I was like, "Okay." So we get in there, and Adam, of course, volunteers my son to take the K2 meter, which my son has never done an investigation before, because I'm a firm believer that you do not invite anyone that is under 18 on an investigation.
Yeah.
Just because basing it off of Dr. Hans Hauser's aspect of anyone going through the puberty stage should not be involved in the paranormal. But, so I took Jameson in, and he was holding the K2, and the K2 spiked. And he was like, "Daddy, what's going on?" I'm like, "Buddy, calm down. You'll be fine." And then Adam Berry asked a question, and the K2 just spiked and stuck there, and he's like, "Daddy, I want to go." I'm like, "You know what, buddy? You lasted 3 minutes. I'm good with it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
funny
another thing that comes into play there is children have their innocence. So what we're trying to search for, they can already see. They already have that feeling and sixth sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's not until your mind gets corrupted that you start losing these things.
Yeah, when you start becoming an adult, you lose that, I guess you could say, third eye, and you lose that perception. It's one of those things where this is why I take cases with children very seriously, because I prefer to believe what the children tell me as compared to what the parents tell me, because the parents are going to be like, "Oh, it's all in their head." No, they have no reason to lie about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, imaginary friends disappear at the age of, what, 12?
Yep.
Who's to say they're imaginary friends?
So, here's the thing. If you go and research the paranormal, what an imaginary friend is technically a tulpa, or a thought form.
Yes.
Yep.
So, in theory, anyone who has ever had an imaginary friend, they were drilled, not per se drilled, but they believed that something existed outside of the realm of their own thought. And they created this form, whether it be because they didn't have friends, or they were depressed, or they were bullied, or whatever the case may be, right? They created this thought form in the form of an imaginary friend. And that imaginary friend became a physical being to them.
So
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%.
So touching on that, my daughter, she's absolutely beautiful, 2.5 years of age. Now, she goes, I'm scared
Right.
somebody's in this room. I was like, oh, who is it? So she goes, oh, it's Heidi. She likes to play games with me. We're going, okay, so it's a 2.5-year-old saying this. So like we left it.
Okay.
Then she goes, there's 2 here now. I said, have you asked him what their name is? She goes, yeah, his name's Andy. I said, okay. What does Andy like to drink? She goes, coffee. Like, without even questioning it. I said, all right. So what's Andy's favourite animal? Ask him. So she asked him, and she goes, elephants. Now, not knowing to her, my dad's father, or my grandfather, you could say, he was Andy. He was a Vietnam veteran, has passed away before that she had even met him. His favourite drink was coffee, and his favourite love of animals was elephants. Now, we haven't told her these things. And then she started rattling off other things.
Wow.
The way that he walked, the way that he talked, what he looked like, and it just threw me completely off because I knew this man. I knew this man growing up. She has no idea who he is, except for the fact that we have a photo of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So that tells me that she
when
has
you
some
get
form of psychic ability.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, definitely.
As I have myself. Like, it's crazy.
It's interesting. I remember years ago when this is what my first wife, her grandfather died, and we were around at her auntie's place. We used to go around there quite often through the summer because they got a swimming pool. And my daughter was about 2 or 3 years old, and she started talking about the guy that was stood in the laundry just watching everybody in the pool, and we asked what he looked like, and she said, "That's him there." Pointed to a photo of her grandfather. She said, and they asked what he was doing. She goes, he was just smiling, watching everybody, and we had no idea who he was. She described him first for the photo. She goes, that's him. And yeah, it's interesting when that people are young and innocent and they haven't been corrupted, like you said, by adulthood. They just see the world in its much fuller form, And this is what I'm saying. We went back to before about the many universe theory and all these different things. There's no one explanation for every single haunting or paranormal event or spiritual interaction.
Sometimes there is no explanation. Sometimes you have to take and suck up your pride and say, there's no way I can explain this. And, I have done that in multiple of my videos. I think it's like 6 or 7 where I'm like, look, I've got nothing for you because I can't explain this. Especially when it comes to kids, though. Because kids, they don't have that mental block that us adults have.
Yeah.
So if a kid is telling you that they're experiencing something, like my son, for example, probably about a week and a half ago, he had told me that he had seen a woman standing at the foot of his new bunk bed. And I'm like, well, what does she look like? He said, long blonde hair. And I was like, well, could you tell me her weight, like her facial expressions? He said, I couldn't see her face, but I saw long blonde hair, and she was tall enough to stand over the top bunk. Wow. Am I going to sit here and tell him that he was experiencing a hallucination? No, because there's a good chance that the house I used to live in was built in 1808. So there is a very good chance that history is going to overlap itself. Do I think it's anything dangerous? No. But still, you have to take that into account.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like as a parent, regardless if you might have your own theory and stuff like that, but you still have to listen to your kids. You never know.
Yeah.
No, I agree. My ex, she's like, I don't want to hear anything about it. Talk to your father, which is fine because she doesn't believe in the paranormal. Her father was a funeral director, so she knows how to embalm people and all that good stuff. She doesn't believe in ghosts.
What a good job to have, though, if you're into the paranormal. I would be sitting there having a field day talking to all these people that are there.
Same.
I've actually applied to cemetery graveyard shift jobs.
I love it. But yeah, if I had that opportunity, I would I would be on that white on rice and a paper plate in a snowstorm. I would be all over that.
I'll take this job. You don't have to pay me overtime. I'll start 3 hours earlier and finish 3 hours later.
Yes.
Here's a question for you. If you get a job working as a graveyard at the middle of the night and stuff like that. You reckon you can get a tax write-off on all of your equipment because you're using them for work?
100%.
Hey, that's thinking.
I don't think so.
100%.
I think it would depend on the country that you're living in. Because here in America, I can tell you right now, that shit wouldn't fly. They'd be like,
It's a land of the free.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They would be like, yeah, no, we're not giving you a tax write-off for that.
Like, what if they're
Wrong
proximity
personal
sensors?
Yes.
Proximity
They don't care.
sensors.
Man.
I mean,
They
you need a
tax
night
us
vision body
25
cam.
cents on a pack of bubble gum.
Is that all? Alcohol gets taxed at like 68%.
Yeah.
I remember
Are you
when
shitting
Juicy
me?
Fruit used to be a quarter, and I was like $2.
No. You
Wait.
don't want to know what we pay for a bottle of Jack Daniels.
That is ridiculous. So I gotta ask you guys, like, how does one physically live in Australia when everything in that country wants to kill you, including the trees?
That's a great question.
No,
Why
we
is
just-
it, Garrett?
we just do it.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's kind of like Texas, but better.
No, but I'm just curious because everything there seems to want to kill you. You have the cone snail. If you walk out into the freaking ocean and step on a snail, it could kill you. You have multiple different types of venomous spiders, multiple different types of venomous snakes. Like,
Yeah.
how does one really live in that environment?
Well, look, I'll put it straight. Being that where we are is a highly suburban area on the coastline, once you start building houses, they all just move inland. Now, unless you're going for trips out camping and whatnot, where you see the most of them, you might get the odd snake. You get the spiders. Yeah, that's just is what it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, spiders are friends. They eat flies. Keep the flies down. You're happy.
Yeah, we've got redbacks all around our place, and I mean, we'll spray them every now and then, but they pop up. As long as you avoid, I mean, I've been bitten by one. It put me in hospital, but you know, it is what it is. We do get a lot of snakes around here. Lynn walked out the front once, and there was a bloody baby brown snake, and it started going for her, but she was able to get out of its way. Now, the problem with a venomous snake, or a
Juvenile.
brown snake, yeah, the juveniles, they don't know how much venom to put in, so they just keep putting venom
It's a
in it.
full
And it's
shot.
way too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, it's not too bad.
Similar to juvenile rattlesnakes in here in the U.S. Like, when they give you a bite, they give you a full shot.
Yeah.
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 So you
So
know,
I was just curious because, like, I have seen some of the creatures that y'all have to deal with, and I'm like fucking horrified.
yeah, kangaroos. Kangaroos are like giant mice on steroids.
Yeah.
Oh, so you wouldn't fight one?
Totally.
Oh god, no! Honestly, if I'm fighting a kangaroo, I'm using a 223.
Fair enough.
No, they will absolutely disembowel you.
Yeah.
Their claws are razor
No.
sharp. They sit on their back tails and they kick their legs. They will
Yeah.
tear you open.
Yeah, no. I was just curious because I've seen videos where people will tap out their shoes because they live in Australia. They tap out their shoes, similar to what you would do here in Nevada. Because in Las Vegas, Nevada, you know, you have a habit of scorpions and spiders crawling into your shoe.
Yep.
Yeah.
You would tap it out and then turn it upside down just to make sure there's nothing in your shoe.
Yeah.
Dear God, some
So-
of the spiders that you guys have there, they frighten me. Like I wouldn't. I want to come and visit Australia, but I feel like I would die.
No, you'll be fine.
No, you'll be fine. You see, you watch a lot of those videos where you see this giant spider crawling across the wall, scaring the crap out of people. That's generally a huntsman or a wolf
See,
spider or something like that. And they're not going to do
Oh
any
yeah,
damage.
they're harmless.
Huntsmen
Yeah.
are fine. I've got a lease agreement with 2 huntsmen in this house, and they eat the flies, don't make
I'm
webs.
more
They can
concerned
stay as
about
long
the
as they
funnel
want.
webs.
The funnel webs we don't get over here, but you do over on the East Coast.
Yeah, so you're fine in this state.
But yes,
So-
you do
so-
avoid the funnel
so-
webs.
We were
So
talking
Nathaniel,
about some deadly animals here.
going back to the alcohol taxes here, just to make you fall over. In 2021, there was $4.26 billion raised through the taxes on alcohol and spirits and ready-to-drink cans.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dear
it is ridiculous.
God, you
So
guys
that's
don't
about
locally sourced?
that's about 2.1 billion US dollars.
That is freaking amazing. Like what?
Yeah, so homebrew
Not
it
for the
is.
people drinking it, but definitely for the people making the money on it.
You could solve a lot of problems with $4.2 billion.
Yeah.
You can.
But can you imagine? But can you
Absolutely
imagine?
can.
Could you imagine all the investigative tools that you could get for $4.26 billion?
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
I could.
Like you could nearly buy Waverly Hills.
I would
Yeah.
buy Waverly Hills.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many places I would go for.
So are we going 4 ways in this, or
I would definitely buy Waverly Hills if I had that opportunity and I had that much money.
that's on my bucket
But
list?
I don't.
It is. Yeah.
You know
mine
what?
too.
For me, and this may be controversial, I don't think Waverly Hills is all that haunted.
No, I think it's the hype that it gets with the media, all the shows. It's more the
I feel
notoriety that it has.
I feel like that's a lot of locations here in the U.S., and that's the thing. You got Waverly Hills, and you got Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and you have, the Nevada State Prison. You have, you name a location that has been on a mainstream television program, they're probably not as haunted as people think they are.
Mm-hmm.
They believe they're haunted because that's what the mainstream media has pushed.
Conditioning.
Yeah. All right.
And
We are
Lizzie
just-
Borden House, good example. I
Yeah,
have
I was just-
personally experienced the Lizzie Borden House in Fall River, Mass. I slept in the spot where they found Mrs. Borden's body on the floor in the upper bedroom.
That's cool.
I experienced nothing all night.
Yeah.
It's the conditioning to make money.
Mm.
That goes on another episode we recorded.
Anyway,
sure.
guys, we are out of time, and
Damn it.
before we go, Nathan. Let's see how else to Nathan. I'm used to say Nathan because I.
I'm sorry I froze up like halfway and you got 30 minutes of you looking at my ghost tag. But
With your screen, you should have it saying in the top right corner, uploading at X amount.
Yeah.
okay,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
I'm
So we-
having a look on the numbers at the moment, and he's 100% uploaded. So I'm hoping it's not a case of his camera's actually frozen, and we do have him frozen for the last part of the video. But
I
it
suppose-
is what it is.
If he is frozen for the last part, we can just put up snippets of his YouTube shots.
Sounds good. Whatever.
Yeah.
I apologize, guys.
Nah, it is what it is,
No,
man.
but
You're good, you're good.
where I'm going is, do you want to just yell out for your channels and
Yeah.
everything you've got coming up before we
Yeah.
disappear?
So if you guys want to find me, you can find me on Facebook at Nathaniel Elwell. You can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Paranormal Nate. You could find me on YouTube at Static Voices. You could find me on TikTok at Static Voices. TikTok is typically where I post a majority of my content. But if you want to come and join me on my journey, you're more than welcome to do so.
That's awesome.
Wicked.
I think we will call it there, and we will definitely love to have you back on again, and hopefully your camera will be working all the way through on the next one.
I'll work out the issues. I don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi right now because I got full connection according to my little extender down there. So I don't know what's going on.
You and I and everybody else watching that's into the paranormal knows that sometimes these things happen, especially when you start talking
They
about
do.
certain subjects.
They do.
We might have hit on something tonight.
Oh, it's been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Guys, I appreciate you having me on. Let me tell you, I cannot, from the bottom of my heart, express my thanks for having you on.
Look,
No,
I love being on it.
I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks this, but I'm happy to have you back anytime you want.
That was the next
Oh, yeah.
thing I was about to
Sure.
say is we'd love to have you back on again if you'd want to come on.
Oh yeah.
Just shoot me a date. We'll work it out.
Not a problem.
Sounds like a plan. We might even actually have you on for a live stream as well, where we can get some questions going in the chat and see where it goes.
I'd love that.
Awesome. All right, guys. I think we will call it there. And if everybody wants to say their farewells, we will depart.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
See you all.